we'll talk about some other things just to kind of change the flavor a little bit. And the next thing that we're going to move on to is the news that David Ornstein broke today in his Athletic. I think it was an Athletic Q&A, and he was saying that the midfield is not a priority for Liverpool this summer. Now, to all of you who have been following the transfer window since Fabinho left, shall we say, we've seen Liverpool linked with Romeo Lavia. We've seen Liverpool go heavy with a bid for what's the other chap? But yeah. And we've seen Zubamendi as the target last summer. So what are your thoughts on that? Not a priority now. Obviously, that Liverpool could be using the media. Agents could be using the media to deflect attention from a midfielder. It seems like most of the links coming out just now are Liverpool in for a striker. That seems to be the most common ones. Liverpool in for a left back. A lot of people saying that Kirkez is done, a done deal pretty much. So they're the main talk. There's not really links to midfielders. So do we buy this, Grizz, that midfielder's not a priority?
Yeah, I haven't read the piece or the question or the whole article, if there's an article, or watched him say it. So obviously we'd have to watch it and read it and see the context, how he spoke about it and what he said exactly. But I spoke to Gags a couple of times about this, and now we know we need signings urgently this summer. We know that there must be activity, and huge, significant amounts of activity. But when I say huge, significant amounts, maybe I take away the amounts. I think there needs to be huge, significant activity. And what I mean by that, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, what I mean by that is, for example, if we were to buy only 4 players, let's say, and I know the world's going to go crashing down on me and go mad and absolutely, no, we need 6 as a minimum. I'm just putting the worst case scenario. I think as a minimum, we need 4. Those 4 have to be starting material 4. That's what I meant by huge, significant activity. It can't be squad fillers. And if we were to pick 4, and I'll put it to the people that are watching, listening, reading, hearing, whatever, and let us know what you think. And Gibbsy, I'll get your opinion on it as well. If we were targeting 4 starting positions, in your opinion, what would those first 4 starting positions be right now? Let's assume Trent is leaving. Let's assume, what else can we assume? Nunez and Diaz are leaving. Let's assume that for the sake of this segment.
What do we assume? What do we assume about Salah and Van Dijk?
Salah and Van Dijk are staying. Let's assume that.
Okay. So based on that, for me, it's a striker, number 9 for sure. Because you need, I don't care if Jota stays. I've no issue with him staying if he stays, but I think he's very much got to be your number 2 number 9. So I've no issue with him staying. And if you're saying Diaz is going to go as well, then he can do left side as well. So I would I'm fine with Jota staying. I'm fine with him staying and running his contract down, to be honest, because I just don't think with his injury history you're going to get the interest in him that would be worth us taking a fee for him with 2 years on his contract to go. So number 9 would be 1. I would still like a number 6. I can't help that. I would absolutely like a proper number 6, even if it is a ball playing one, like a Zubamendi profile. That is absolutely something I want, because I just don't think Ryan Gravenberch, you're going to be able to roll him out for 30, 40 games a season. And I think we've seen that with the tiredness that's crept into his game over the last few weeks and the lack of trust in Endo to start games. He's coming on to do a Milner role in the last few minutes. That's literally all he's being used for, really. And he's done a good job at that, but he's no closer to starting games ahead of Ryan Gravenberch or even in place of Ryan Gravenberch to let Ryan have a rest. So for me, that's absolutely a must. I would still like, obviously we need a right back based on what you just said, that we're assuming that Trent's going. So we're going to need a right back. We can't, for the same reason, we can't churn Connor Bradley out, because he's no history of being able to play that many games in a season. I've no issue, genuinely, if Bradley was made the first choice. I know some people will scoff at that, but I've no issue if he became the first choice to see how good he can be with someone, maybe either a younger player or an older player being brought in as a backup right back. So no issue there. And a centre half. I think we're going to need a centre half, because I know obviously we never replaced Joe Matip. We've kind of replaced him in a way with Jarrell Kwanzaa, but centre back, we're assuming Joe Gomez is gonna move on. So that takes away a big utility player as well. So again, a centre half's another one. Has that been done 4 or 5?
Yeah, no,
Left
this
back,
is where,
left back's the other one.
but this is my point. This is 5 you've mentioned now. So you're thinking, or you're in your opinion, this is our first disagreement. Me and Gags love a bit of a disagreement, but this is mine and your first disagreement. See, I don't think, in my opinion, the midfielder is in the top 4 of my priorities. Now, I have sort of, the way I've levied this debate and chat, I get it. It's a bit of a cheat because I've said 4 priorities, right? But this is what I think Ornstein has, or maybe probably is insinuating or indicated, that the priority, if Darwin and Diaz and Gomez and Trent, right, those 4 players left the squad right now, then in my opinion, those are the 4 positions that would become priority in my opinion. And so therefore the central midfielder would be 5th on that list of priorities, because if Nunes is gone, you're absolutely spot on. You can't rely on Jota. Number 9 becomes number 1 priority. If Diaz goes, you're not relying on Gakpo and Salah to be your flankmen. He obviously hasn't got any faith in Chiesa as we speak enough to start games. That would be number 2 priority. Again, you're talking a starting striker and a starting winger, stroke attacker, right? And then if Trent leaves, there's an absolute urgent need for a right back, because you're not relying on Conor Bradley for the rest of the season. And then a Gomez, if Gomez is set to leave, like you said, I forgot about Gomez. Let's just assume on the basis of probability, Gomez is set to leave, or injury prone, then you're not relying on Kwanzaa and Konate and a 33-year-old, will it be, Virgil van Dijk? Yeah. So using that theory and thinking, I'm thinking, I understand why the club wouldn't say it's priority. Now, it is priority, as I agree with what you said, because you're relying on Gravenberch being, again, overplayed and overran in midfield, because Endo, who is supposed to be the rotational Gravenberch, is nowhere seen or heard or good enough. Let's be ultimately brutally honest, not good enough to be the alternative to Gravenberch. So I agree with you. We absolutely do require an alternative to Gravenberch, but I can understand what Ornstein is insinuating here, probably, that it's not in the priorities of the way I've looked at it. I don't know what you guys think in the chat, and I don't know what you think about that.
See, to me, they would, I don't think I can rank them. I think they all need done. You know what I mean? I just think they all need done. The priority is those 5 positions. And
I get it.
Obviously, Liverpool will have to rank them in terms of what order they do them and whether they do them or not. But to me, they all have to be addressed. I can't see that we can go into another season without, and this is not, obviously, here we are at the top of the league about to win the title with all our problems. You know what I mean? I'm not wanting to get to deflect from what's going to be an amazing achievement. But next season, with what we've got coming up, with what this team is going to have to go through next season to be able to compete on all fronts, with, like you say, that Virgil van Dijk point's massive, even if he does stay, because he's not going to be able to play every single game on all fronts. That's going to have to be wound in at some point. And to me, that's one of the ones that everyone's saying about Huijsen at Bournemouth. Oh, how's he going to want to come? Because he's going to be behind Van Dijk and Konate in every game. You know what I mean? Is he really going to take being a nailed-on starter at Bournemouth to come and sit on Liverpool's bench? But surely the case to someone like that is to say, look, you're the long-term Virgil van Dijk replacement. And part of these Virgil van Dijk contract discussions has to be, look, Virgil, you're not going to play as much as you have been because we want to get the most out of this contract as possible. If we're renewing you for 2 years, say with an option of a third, we want you to see out that contract by playing as much as possible every single season. But to get the best out of you, to get peak Virgil van Dijk performance, that's going to mean that you may have to miss a game 1 in 4 or something. You know what I mean? And of course, Konate in the same boat doesn't have the best of injury records either. So, and there's a decision to be made about him as well, because if he doesn't sign a contract within the next few weeks, he's going to have to be put on the transfer list. You know what I mean? So you can't go into another season, surely to God, with another defender with 1 year left, another main first team player with 1 year left, who we know has a pull and an urge with PSG. You know what I mean? They're interested in him. He's a Paris boy, just like we're seeing with Trent and the Real Madrid stuff just now. Surely you can't risk that for a club that's supposed to run a sustainable business model that needs to sell players to have money to spend in the transfer market. We can't allow that. So he has to renew or be sold. So that's where the argument to me comes in, that all of these positions are absolutely crucial to Liverpool next season. Now, if you spoke to me before the start of the season, I don't know what you were saying, but I spoke to Dave Hendrick a couple of times and a few things. I never in my wildest dreams expected Liverpool to be challenging for the title. Never mind winning it and miles clear. Just didn't expect it. I thought that they were taking a risk with top four by not strengthening the squad, by not doing more in the transfer window. And lo and behold, I've been proved to be an idiot, because Liverpool have done absolutely amazing this season. And maybe I'll be proved wrong again. But the damage has been done over the last few windows, and that's why I feel all 5 of these things need to be nailed down this summer.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, as I said, I agree. But then, and I agree with the term ranking them. I agree it's difficult to rank them in terms of priority. Each someone different will have something else in their mindset about what is needed with this squad, with this team, especially after watching them this season. Again, in my opinion, I think even though we've scored the most goals in the Premier League, I think it's been obviously very heavily reliant upon Mohamed Salah. And so therefore, in my opinion, the priority must be in attack. Not necessarily, and I don't mean that necessarily as just a number 9. I mean attack. So it could be an elusive forward and an attacker that can cover all 3 positions, for example. Or a number 9. So I think a minimum of 2 attackers is priority for me. But then I agree, we've been screaming out for a number 6 and a defensive, more molded, someone in the more physical, robust type of midfielder. And I think that is urgent as well. But a lot of people mentioned left back. We forgot about that. A left back is urgently required if Tsimikas is going, and we're relying upon an aging Robertson, who again, by the way, was fantastic last month. He's not silenced, but he's fought back a few critics that said he's finished. You know, what it suggests to me is Robertson can still play once a week. He just can't play more than once a week, and we shouldn't be relying on him week in, week out, play 2-3 times a week. But yeah, look, in terms of priority, where this debate started, where this Ornstein piece has come from, in terms of priority, I can understand it. I also think there is a bit of mind games here in terms of, you're right about the market and the state of the market, because there is a lot to do. And when there's a lot to do, there's obviously a lot of money to be spent. And obviously we know Liverpool, just like most normal clubs in the world, have a budget, and will have a budget, an idea. So we will have to plan accordingly. We will have to, unfortunately, whether we like it or we don't, and I get it, a lot of Liverpool fans are fed up of this line, but we will have to prioritize, and we will have to sort of have a limit on where we can spend what and how much we can spend on where. And I think with the emergence of Gravenberch and of course McAllister, Jones, and etc., the rest of them, and there's another factor that I want to put into the chat, and there's another factor that I want to put into the air and get your opinion. And again, people, let us know what your opinion is the return of Stefan Bajcetic that is being muted. What do you think about that one? Because by all accounts, he's had an up and down preseason, let's just say. I think that's fair to say. Not the best of times, along with our very own, our old Pep Linders. But then he seems to be playing much better in Spain, La Liga. What do you think in being sort of, I guess, a direct replacement for Endo, or maybe even keep Endo again for another cameo type season if we're only going to get about 8 to 10 million for him, which I think we'd be lucky to get personally. What are your thoughts on Bajcetic adding to the squad and becoming that sort of revolving, or, you know, Gravenberch replacement?
First of all, Endo, I imagine he'll want to leave. I can't see he at his age and playing. I know he's got 1 year left of his contract after this, but I can't see he's going to.
I'm not sure, you know, Eddie. I think he's just one of those guys that just loves being there, team man. I don't know. I don't know. It's just an opinion.
You're coming into a World Cup year. He's going to be playing in that World Cup. He's going to be wanting to play some football. You know what I mean? I don't think you can expect him to accept that sort of role the way he's at his age. He's a senior player. He's a captain of his country. To be accepting a bit part role in a Liverpool squad, I honestly can't see it. I would imagine he would ask to go. Bajcetic is one that will divide opinion, because I can see in the chat that comments are coming in saying people are in favor. People are asking about this, and people are in favor of this. The one thing that we see is that he's gone and played Champions League football in Austria this season. In the first half of the season, he really struggled under a manager that knew him in Pep Lijnders. That never worked out for all sorts of reasons, and it was almost like they couldn't trust him. You know, that was the way it seemed to be, and the new manager obviously didn't want any part of it, and Bajcetic probably didn't want any part of it either. He's gone down to Tenerife, I think, where he's was it Las Palmas he's playing for? In La Liga. He's done well. I've not seen him. I've not watched any of the performances, but the reports are that he's done very well. But I think what you have to ask yourself also is he a player that Liverpool would be looking to buy right now? Let's just say he wasn't owned by Liverpool. Do you think Liverpool would be looking to buy Stefan Bajcetic, who's playing for Las Palmas in La Liga right now? I don't think so. You know what I mean? And that's where he would very much, as we're all saying here, be a squad piece, if anything. Is that enough? I don't think so, because I don't think Slot's going to treat him any differently to he would be treating Endo right now, because he won't be a player that would come in and be trusted by the manager. We need a piece like a Zubamendi would have been this year that the manager's going to trust. And the other thing that we've been really lucky with this season, and we've not been lucky with injuries, as everyone will tell you, especially Arsenal fans, but we've not really had to veer away from Gravenberch, McAllister, and Szoboszlai very much. And Curtis Jones has been fit for most of the season as well, which isn't normally the case. So we've actually had 4 midfielders that have been pretty fit all season. And that is still, these guys have still been running to the ground because he doesn't trust them. And they all looked out on their feet, even coming back from the internationals. They all seem to struggle, especially McAllister after that tackle, that he wasn't himself. And Gravenberch had a good enough game, move and play forward, but a lot of sideways passes, didn't really develop much through the middle. Liverpool were going wide. They put a lot of crosses in that were aimless against Everton because their defenders are just able to hit things away. I think they need something a bit different in midfield as another option, especially now as Slot's seeing how difficult it is to break down some of these low blocks in the Premier League. And what my hope is that he's learned something from this season, this amazing season that he's done so well. And whereas he said last year, we have this great squad I've inherited from Jurgen. We don't really want to do anything. We want a clean slate for all the players, see what they can do. But I think that changes this summer, and I hope it changes. And I hope the names that Richard Hughes has given him, he's being very forthright and saying, I would use him or I wouldn't use him. Like we've seen with Chiesa. That's a Richard Hughes signing. Contacts Sierra.
I think that's a very good point you make there. That he's very forthright and open about the options that Richard Hughes suggests to him, because we know how they operate. There will be suggestions of 4 or 5, and Slot will be sort of making his call or having the final say, I guess, in terms of the options that he wants for his game. We know Klopp, or I understand Klopp was very, very, let's say, choosy, picky, fussy with the selections that he was often given by Edwards and co, which ended up in a bit of frustration from Edwards' point of view, hence the slight falling out. We may hear about things of that nature more and more in the future. But look, I think Slot, I think Slot's a learner. I think Slot's a very good learner. All indications point to, from watching him in his first season, that he's developed and he's very... he's developed his sort of learning and sort of seen what needs to be done. Hence, the season that we're having. He still talks about sort of losses to Forest. And I don't know if you've noticed, he's non-stop talked about Paris Saint-Germain game since the Paris Saint-Germain game now, because he feels, or I think he feels, as though he's learned a lot from that defeat as well. So he's learning and he's always taking things on board. And I agree with you. I think absolutely vital that we don't get a squad filler in. I think we hopefully get 4 or 5 starters, minimum, starting material. And here's my controversial take, and I've been so far proved right, and ultimately I'm proved wrong. Ultimately, I hope I'm proved very, very wrong. And Stefan Bajcetic has a wonderful career with Liverpool. Hopefully, I'm so eating so much humble pie that I can't walk anymore, because that's how wrong I want to be. I want Stefan Bajcetic to be an absolute sensation for Liverpool. It will cost us, it will save us 60, 70 million in the market where we can spend elsewhere. And we will have a guy that's come not from the academy, but sort of very much young. We got him very, very young, and it will be some comeback story. But Gibbsy, I don't see him as a starting player for Liverpool, and I've been vocal quite for some time. Even though he made that sort of, where he was brilliant that season, where he covered 4 or 5 injuries at that time, right? We had that disastrous season where we had so many injuries in midfield, and even though he was a shining light in a otherwise dark season that season, I didn't see it with him. Now, hope I'm badly wrong. That's my thoughts on Stefan Bajcetic.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. I don't think it would be beyond the pale to expect him to come back, obviously, and do a pre-season, and for the manager to have a look at him with his squad. I don't think there's anything in that, but none of us really know. We're just speculating on what we think may be the case. But if Liverpool feel that there's a future for him, they'll decide very quickly, I would think. But I would imagine he may be one of the ones that they try and cash in on over the summer, because they need to spend some money, and they have to find that money from somewhere. And I think we're going to talk about, before I move on to the next section, we're going to talk about some of the fringe players next. That's
brilliant segue. Brilliant segue into the next segment.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to speak about the future of some of the fringe players next, and we will do that. Before we do, though, see that message at the bottom there about the super chats. Please do try and do super chats if you can. They really, really help us deliver these free shows on YouTube. They're absolutely massive parts. And while you're here, please do smash that like button. Do subscribe to the channel if you're not already doing so. It means so much to the comments are excellent because they help the algorithm, but nothing can help the YouTube algorithm more than you hitting like on this video, than you hitting subscribe on this video. We're just about at 1,400 of you watching right now across all platforms. So 1,400 is a good number, but we need to see more of you pressing that like button and more of you subscribing to the channel if you don't already do so. So we do appreciate that. And if you're watching on Twitter, or you're watching on Facebook, you have got that option to watch live on there. Please do come over to YouTube. YouTube's really where it's at in terms of comments and content and the video content that we're delivering just now. So please do come along. There's so many shows now on here for you on YouTube. I mean, it's something that we only started 3-4 months ago, and the growth has been quite incredible alongside the audio, which has never stopped. Obviously, we're probably delivering, I was working out last week, we're delivering more than there was 130 podcasts went out in March. 130, and 2 weeks of that was international break. So that amount of content is staggering. You know what I mean? No, I don't think anyone in the Liverpool sphere is delivering content on that level. So there's a variety there as well. There was Money Talks with Mo Chatra covering the finances. There's the Stats guys on Under Pressure covering all the deep dive analytics. There's Transfer Market Metrics with Dr. Phil Barter looking at stats, and Dave Davis looking at stats on specific players that Liverpool are linked to. There's shows like this where we're debating and disagreeing and agreeing and disagreeing and all that sort of stuff with Gags and Grizz. There's all the post-match shows immediately after each game. There's the previews. There's Harry Setti with his rival Recon talking to people and journalists from other clubs who Liverpool are playing. There's so much content. So if you want audio, AnfieldIndex.com/podcasts. There is, all those shows are available free with adverts. If you don't want any of the adverts and you want to listen to all our content in full, no cuts, completely open content for absolutely everything with 0 ads, it's AnfieldIndexPro.com. And spoiler, the price is going to go up very, very soon. So if you want to get the lower cost, and it's been the same price since 2017. What costs the same now as it did in 2017? Very, very little. So do take the opportunity, AnfieldIndexPro.com. And there's a whole host of benefits that come with that I'm not going to bore you with just now because we've got to get on with the show. But they're the little messages. Please do support the channel. It means so much to us. Of course, we are on Twitter. We are on Blue Sky. We're on Discord. Any of you can come and join the Discord community, AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. And you can chat with us. Grizz is there. I'm there. All the regular podcasters there. Grizz isn't there very much, but once the transfers start, I'm sure he'll be in there a bit more. So please do come over to Discord as well and do that. And it really will mean the world to us. So let's move on to the fringe players then, Grizz. We've got a few to discuss, the futures really. And whilst everyone's talking about the Ekatikes and the Isaacs and the Ottomans, today was a link that I saw, and Adam Wharton and midfielders galore, Baliba and Kirkes and Huijsen and Mamadashvili and all the players that people are hoping come into Liverpool. We do have these three guys, and we spoke about Indo a little bit. So let's speak about Chiesa and Elliott and what may happen with them. Where do you see their futures? Because none of them can be particularly happy with the game time that they've had.
No, but sort of obviously different players, and the ones, for example, let's take Chiesa and Elliott and Endo, the ones that you've put up on the banner as a starting point, all different stages of their careers, and all will have different objectives and sort of thinking. We'll start off with, I guess we'll start off with Endo. We've discussed Endo. With World Cup year being there and him being the eldest out of the three, I think it's fair to say that he will be gone. And then we come to Chiesa, who's I don't know what to make of the Chiesa signing and the way he's been sort of treated. When I mean treated, sort of coached, managed, I think a lot of us would have liked to see more of him, but then we don't see him in training day in, day out like the coaches and Slot does. So he will have his reasoning. And again, who can argue with his reasoning? He is about to deliver us number 20. Ultimately, and this might sound cold-blooded, this might sound ruthless, this might not sound like the community man that I am, but I don't care for individuals. I genuinely don't. Bless them. They all paid enough. They all have brilliant careers or have had brilliant careers elsewhere. I only care about Liverpool being successful and winning trophies. And if Slot's methodology, management, coaching has entailed us in winning number 20, then if that means sacrificing Chiesa and Elliott as a result, then so be it. I like both. I want to put it out there. I like Chiesa. I've always liked Chiesa. I thought Chiesa 3-4 years ago was the Salah replacement. That's how highly I rated him. He obviously isn't that player right now because A, Juve wouldn't have got rid of him that easily, and B, he would have been more significant. He would have played a more significant role this season. But I think it's one to keep an eye on. I don't know what you think about Chiesa's situation, but I think, again, like you said about Endo, I think Chiesa definitely would want to leave if he's not going to get any chances. And I think there's a conversation and discussions to be had. With Elliott, I'm a fan of Elliott. I think Harvey Elliott is a wonderful little football player. But again, it will come down to what Slot thinks. Slot doesn't give a shit what Grizz Khan or Eddie Gibbs thinks or any other random on Twitter, X, Instagram, whatever. I think he will know in his head whether he thinks Elliott can be useful. He will never be a starter, I believe, but if he will be a useful member of our squad. Now, I believe he could be and he should be. Homegrown, etc., etc. And I think there's a talented boy there. And one of the most important things or factors that would play a decision would play a role in my decision making about Elliott is the lad loves it there and he wants to stick it out and fight it there. In the modern day and age, we know, Eddie, young players get very impatient very quickly, and if they're not playing, may kick up a fuss and have attitude problems and issues. Harvey Elliott is the absolute opposite of all of that, and therefore, for me, I would keep Elliott. I would sell the other two if we were able to get any fees from them. But then again, that's more work needed in the transfer market. This is it.
That's it. I'm just going to give a shout out to Sudge, the Arsenal fan, who always seems to kick off the super chats. It's such irony that it takes an Arsenal fan to kick off the super chats. But thank you so much, as ever, Sudge, for that super chat. What Sudge's point was that as an Arsenal fan is that an injury to Alisson, like we've seen this year, he's been out a couple of times, would have killed Arsenal. That's what he's saying. If he said there, I mean, if we lost Raya for 13 games, we would be mid-table. So it's a good point. You know, I mean, Liverpool have coped with that by having a good number 2 in Kelleher, and we need to thank Sudge for that super chat once again. In terms of the points that you've asked there about Chiesa and Elliott, I think Chiesa must have been sold a message when he came to the club because. His best position and his favoured position's on the right side, but you've got an absolute demon playing on that right side that never gets injured, and more to the point, is not happy when he's substituted. So I think Chiesa's come into a no-win situation in many ways, because Slot has depth on the left. He prefers Gakpo and Diaz. That's fair enough. He's not going to play him as a false nine, because Liverpool don't really do that. They play a striker through Nunez or Jota. So the only real slot in this team for him is Salah's position. But Salah doesn't want to be substituted. I don't think it's probably helped that Liverpool have been going through contract discussions all season with Salah either, because the media would absolutely kick off if Slot substituted Salah with 20 minutes to go, even if Liverpool are winning, because Salah wants his goals and he wants his records, and Salah comes off and he throws his toys out the pram, or he gives Slot doesn't shake his hand or anything like that, then everything's going to kick off. You know what I mean? It takes the smallest of things. Salah was seen at the docks this week doing some media, and obviously it turned into a massive, this is his contract renewal video and everything like that. Every tiny thing is picked up upon. So imagine in a match, if we're taking him off and bringing Chiesa on, even if Chiesa deserves it, Slot walks into a viper's nest with that. So I think that it's very, very difficult for Chiesa to get the game time that he wants. And then obviously he has been given goes in some of the other competitions, but Liverpool have been knocked out of those. You know what I mean? So it's very, very difficult to see where his game time comes. Now, just like we said about Virgil van Dijk, Salah's not getting any older, but can you imagine telling Mo Salah that you're going to be withdrawing him on 70 a few times next season? You know what I mean? That you're going to ask him to maybe sit out the odd Premier League game so you can start Chiesa instead. It's not going to go down very well, is it? And I think that's one of the reasons why it would surprise me probably now, but up until this point, it would very much surprise me if Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes weren't prepared to accept a complete clean house on Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent. It really wouldn't have surprised me. It would now, because I think it's got to that stage where the mood music suggests that Salah and Van Dijk are going to stay. You know, and I know back in December, you were saying you expected all three of them to stay. And I mean, everyone's got their opinion on that. But I do think that Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, they've just employed Arne Slot to replace Jurgen Klopp. That's the one big decision that they've made. And look how the dividends that's paid. I totally think they'd have backed themselves because they think they're the smartest guys in the room, and they might be. I think they may have been prepared. And I don't think they are now, so I'm kind of backtracking a bit. But I think they may have been prepared to have let all three of them go and accepted the challenge of replacing them. And
I think they were. I genuinely believe that they were prepared, and I agree with the reasons why they. No, I don't agree with them thinking that all three should leave or could leave. But what I meant by that, again, what you said is, I think they're smart and clever enough to start the rebuild off from letting them go if they don't want to be here, or if they refuse the deals that FSG are adamant they have to accept. And Edwards, I said it all summer, as soon as he was appointed, I said he's not coming back to make friends and be rosy, everything in the garden and pally with people. Edwards is coming back because FSG, obviously want him to run operations, football, all FSG, right? All things FSG. And B, I think the owners weren't happy with the way we were dealt with in the transfer market, or agents dealt with us, or the fees that we paid for certain players, and sort of the last ditch attempts, and sort of just the manic madness that we saw the last couple of windows. We've never operated like that. We've never been that club that seems desperate in the market. We're far more structured and organized, and I think Edwards was brought back to reinstate our position in that sort of hierarchy of, you don't F with Liverpool, you don't F with Edwards. So I think it's an intriguing summer because there needs to be work done. I agree that there needs to be a lot of work done. And I also agree a lot of outs have to take place to have ins. And I think the three that you've mentioned there, I personally would only keep Elliott out of those three. I know you didn't mention Tsimikas in that list. I think Tsimikas goes. I think a couple of the young midfielders are probably let go. And Bejitic is the one that we're going to see. I think it's intriguing to see the Bejitic situation, because ultimately you have to remember he was a centre-back. he can play centre back as well. But again, we're literally speculating because Klopp obviously, rated Vegetic high enough, but the fact that Slot put him out on loan straight away after the preseason that they had, but obviously admitting that he needed game time, I think this preseason will be the defining factor in terms of Vegetic.
One thing's for sure, there's going to be lots. There's going to be lots going on. That's, I mean, and we've said that before, and you could have said that last year with the new manager coming in because you'd expect.
This is why you have to be subscribed and tuned into all things Anfield Index. Like Eddie says, the content is absolutely overflowing, and it will be a monumental show. So people, like, subscribe if you haven't already, because you are in for probably one of the most active summers in the history of Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah, I think all fan media is going to blow up this summer. I really do, because I think that some of the stuff that we're hearing, some of the stuff going on behind the scenes just now, some of it's not really airable yet because it's so tentative, but it's there's some good stuff going on behind the scenes as far as we're aware. So let's see what comes to light there. And that's not normally the case. I mean, you're not even hearing much whispers or stuff just now, apart from if you've got really close links to the club. But the odd little thing is starting to seep out, and it's quite interesting what we think Liverpool are going to do this summer. So definitely keep your eyes peeled, because if some of this comes to light, then I think Liverpool are in for a hell of a ride as fans this summer. I don't think you'll almost not go a day without something happening by the look of it, whether that be incomings, outgoings, contracts. Let's wait and see what's going to happen there. Now,